I've owned and used a lot of different M lenses over the years, everything from Leica to Zeiss to Voigtlander, 7 Artisans, but I've never really shot a lens like this. This is the tri-elmar M f4 28, 35, 50 aspherical. I just threw a lot of numbers at you. Basically, this is 3 prime lenses in one. So it's not really a zoom lens like you would think of a normal zoom lens. You don't have working ranges from 28 to 50. You specifically have 28, 35, and 50 itself, and all of those are at a constant aperture of f4. Obviously, you can stop it down, but the fastest aperture for all of those focal lengths is f4. A lens like this is not something you commonly see on an M, and I think that's just because of how difficult this thing has to be to produce. So as a result of that, people who really enjoy M lenses for, everything there is to enjoy about M lenses, we're used to working with prime focal lengths. That's everybody if you're shooting film, digital, using Leica bodies or other camera bodies, it doesn't matter. If you're using M lenses, the vast majority of what you have to choose from is all prime lenses. So something like this just kind of piqued my interest when I first heard about it, and when I was talking to KEH about, just some different video ideas, they were like, yeah, take a look at our inventory. Is there anything that piques your interest? And this definitely did once I saw this was in stock. And I'll be honest with you, it wasn't even so much that I wanted to try this lens out to shoot with it and see if it would be, the one lens for me or anything, because it's not. It's just not the lens I want to use, and we'll get into that, but I really wanted to have the lens in hand just to kind of talk about it a little bit more, about the idea of having something like this, and who is this really designed for. I have on my M6 a 35mm f2 Summicron, and I also have a 50mm f2 Summicron. These are my 2 M lenses that I use all the time. I use them on my M6, I adapt them to my SL2 cameras. I absolutely love these lenses. So the fact that I could get both of those focal lengths plus a 28 in one lens, it's at least a little bit appealing. The trade-off obviously is that this is an f4 lens, whereas the Summicrons, those are f2. But on my M6, if I'm shooting in broad daylight and my fastest shutter speed I have is 1/1000th of a second, I'm not even shooting at f2. I'm really stopping the lens down pretty far. In most cases, I'm usually shooting around f4 unless I'm inside or if the light is low enough and I want that shallow depth of field. So depending on your use cases and what you're really looking for, an f4 might not be that much of a trade-off for you. If you want to buy an M camera and buy an M lens and try and get like the most pure M experience, I would not recommend something like this. I would obviously recommend a prime lens, which is what the vast majority of M shooters are using. But a photojournalist or someone who travels a lot, somebody who wants one camera body and one lens but wants a little bit more options, and again, 3 different focal lengths in a very, very small M lens, it's pretty interesting. And obviously I did shoot with the lens. I shot some photos on my M6 as well as adapting it to my SL2, which I also recorded a video so you could see what it actually looks like looking through the lens as you move from different focal lengths. So, part of me was like, it's not a zoom lens, but what does it actually look like? Because as you're changing the focal length on an M6, you're not gonna see the actual, through the optics of the lens as it's changing. So I tried that on the SL2 and then I just recorded a clip so you could see exactly what it does to the image. So yes, this is truly 3 different lenses, although maybe if you shot somewhere in between and, as it's throwing the focus around, might be able to experiment and get some interesting results, but that's specifically if you're adapting this, not if you're going to be using it on a film camera. I guess you could also throw it on a digital M and use the LCD or an EVF, but you get what I'm saying. And the results were all right. It flares a little bit more than my Summicron lenses do. That was like the first immediate thing that I noticed, but in terms of sharpness and image quality, everything seemed fine. But there was nothing really special about the lens. It just seemed like a decent, good quality lens without really any character, without anything really special to make it stand out. Some people might love that, some people might hate that. I personally love the different M lenses that are out there and some of the different characteristics that they have, whereas this one just seems to be pretty vanilla. It was also really difficult just muscle memory wise for me to add another ring to turn on the lens. I'm used to only working with my focus and my aperture, so I'd be changing my focus when I was trying to actually change the focal length or vice versa. Unless I was actually taking the camera away from my eye and looking down to make the adjustment, it was pretty hard to use just based on years of muscle memory. I think what the Leica M system draws to a lot of people is the size and the weight. You know, having basically your entire kit shrinking down a little bit. If you could have 3 focal lengths, the 28, 35, and 50, all in one lens on one camera body, you could travel extremely light. So I don't know, I thought it was an interesting lens, one I'd never shot with before or really had anyone talk about. So I kind of just wanted to take some time to put the information on this lens out there and just some of my thoughts on something like this for an M shooter, because it's definitely not the normal lens you would see. Of course, big thanks to our sponsor KEH Camera for loaning me this lens for a little bit to try out and make a video with it. I am sending this back, so if you are interested, I'll put a link down below. But of course, anything from KEH that you're interested in, be sure to use the codes and links down below to save yourself some money. It doesn't matter if you're shopping for used gear or selling used gear, KEH Camera is the best place to do it. If you're shopping for used gear, their inventory is massive and they have an amazing grading system, but also if you're selling some of your old gear, you can have a video call with someone from KEH and they can actually walk through checking out the camera and give you a quote there. And if you do decide to sell it, they'll actually arrange a pickup time so you don't even have to leave the house. It's a great place to shop, a great place to sell your gear. I love working with KEH. Again, big shout out to them for sending this out to me. I've got another video with them coming up in just a few weeks. We're going to take a look at some 7 Artisans lenses on the M6, and I'll probably also shoot them on the SL2. Maybe some video with the lenses as well, because I think they might be interesting for shooting video. So keep an eye out for that one. If you guys have any thoughts or questions about this lens, leave them in the comments down below. But that's it for today. Love you guys. I'll see you next time.